Righty, good evening everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight and welcome to tonight's community discussion on transport in our local forest region. Before we begin, just a couple of quick housekeeping items for you tonight. If you're in a restroom, if you just follow the corridor just behind the curtain there. We also have a water station in case anybody gets a bit thirsty or needs a bit of hydration, just in the corner just near the bar there, and it's just being refilled at the moment too. And if you can just now take this opportunity to turn your phone onto silent or off if you can. So we are also recording this forum just because a couple of people wanted to be here tonight but weren't able to make it, but still wanted to be active in that discussion. So if anybody has any problem with being filmed, it won't be filmed from the front, so we won't be getting anybody's faces, but if there are any issues, please do let us know. We can work around that. Now, tonight's discussion is a community-focused, positive and solutions-focused discussion. And we're really lucky to have some representatives from Transport joining us here tonight as well. So while this is a community-driven discussion, we want to make sure that your voices, your insights, your ideas and suggestions are heard by the people with some real influence. So really thank everybody for being here and being part of this discussion tonight. I'd now like to welcome the New South Wales Independent Member for Wakehurst, Michael Regan.
That'd be me. Thank you, Sean. I really don't like the lectern, but I'll stand out of there shortly. In fact, might even do that now. Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for those watching online. It is very much appreciated. This is the start of a conversation an ongoing conversation, and I wanted to update you on what's happening, what has happened, and I want very much a two-way conversation about what you want and want to see. We are lucky to have Transport officials here who are listening and taking notes. My staff are taking notes. Happy to send everyone who's registered. There was like 50 or 60 have registered for tonight, so we'll make sure that you get copies of all of those notes and questions to make sure that we haven't missed anything, and if we have, I know you'll tell me. So, what do I know? The area is changing. I've been here since 2003, and I've seen it change quite substantially in that time. With the new planning controls that the Minister Scully has introduced, the low mid-rise in particular is set to change things dramatically because it affects areas as far as down to this particular spot here in the RSL. It's 400 metres from 400 and 800 metres to the two, if you like, the two imaginary lines that run down. There's maps on the website. And it basically says within 400 metres you can do unit blocks, and within 800 metres you can do what they call the low mid-rise type stuff, which is your townhouses up to 3 stories, possibly up to 6 stories, depending on certain levers you want to push. And you can do other manor homes and the like. So it'll start to filter out. We already know that this particular site has a DA recommended for approval, going up to the independent planning panel for seniors living. That is happening, I think, at the end of this month. We know that there was just a big development approved around the hospital, or opposite the hospital, of several hundred units, I think it was, just opposite the hospital there. We know there's been a few other developments approved there. The high school site itself will be cricket skills, that's good. Still got them. We know the high school site is a DA away, so it doesn't have to be rezoned. It's just one development application away from 1,000 units, up to 12 stories, which is the height of the existing hospital, with roads and infrastructure, plus commercial, plus retail. And there is a lot of developers interested in that site. There is no question about that, and the high school will be opened first term next year. It's probably going to be ready to go before that, but the school will probably take the opportunity to move in over the Christmas holidays, if you like. So we know that's all happening. We know there's a lot of interest in that site, and that will probably trigger a lot of the other ones to go to. There's also a development application just been lodged for a 146-bed hotel on the Dan Murphy's Forest Hotel site, which is just about to happen. So there's a lot of interest in that sort of space there too. The development, as I understand, has been approved for Forest Way shops to be redeveloped, but no residential. They didn't want it, and happy with that as it is, but it will be a significant change. So one thing on that, I've asked them to consider and work with Transport for New South Wales on both the existing site and the future approved site for Park and Ride. You'll know there's 105 spaces on that top level there of the existing site. which could easily, in my view, have a couple of boom gates like they've done at the tram shed, like they've done at other places, the PCYC at DY, Brookvale and Manly Vale. So there's opportunity there for them to use that site temporarily and into the future. So it's the very first stage, they're just sussing each other out, but there's both interest from transport, but in particular from the owner of the site, which is usually the hardest thing. So that's something we're looking at, which would benefit in particular residents living in that Belrose, Davidson area, which would be handy, because that's where the 160X bus that comes from DY, which is the future B2, for want of a better term. It's a future B-line bus service, currently at 160X. Since the opening of the metro, I'm told that patronage is starting to rise to make it sustainable as is, but we ultimately want to see that as a B-line service, and that was what was always designed to be back in 2000, and testing my memory now, when we started talking about the B-lines for both the north-south and the east-west being DY to Chatswood, we were talking about that being a B-line service, and that was actually our priority for Warringah Council, but we got overruled and it became the north-south, and it's been a huge success. So that's where we're at the moment. So with the planning changes, Council is doing some work at the moment about the low and mid-rise to see what impacts that will have. We already know, and you've already told me loud and clear, that there's rat runs now down to pretty much from OLGC school there in Curry Road all the way back up to Hilmer Street there. Council's done some works with transport to see if they can prevent that to some degree during peak hour, but there needs to be more be done. We know that there's choke points at Forest Way turning onto Warringah Road in peak hour in particular, and we think, and I've asked the questions in Parliament and waiting on responses about how that's improved or not improved, or is it over capacity again, as it was prior to that graded separation past the hospital there. Has it improved? Has it got worse? Is it the same? Where are we at with it, basically? Because anecdotally, we're being told the lines are much longer down Forest Way now to turn onto Warringah Road, and it's causing a great deal of grief for those residents on both, that electorate line of Davidson with Matt or myself on the other side, all the way to Terry Hill. So we're hearing those stories. So we've asked for the data and the facts on that. We know that the Metro, for those of you who didn't see the video that one of my staffers and I did of getting the bus up here at Jamison Square or Forestville, depending on what you want to call it there, but we did the bus, getting the bus to the city, which was Ishbel. She got on that at 8 minutes past. I got on the X160 at 8:15, and I was in town 40 minutes or so later getting the Metro. She was there another 10 or 15 minutes after I had already arrived. So we know it can work in that peak hour. We'll do it again at 7 in the morning and 7:30 in the morning. We'll do it up at Forest Way as well to test it there as well. The key thing is, we all know we want reliability first and foremost. We want those buses turning up on a regular basis. We need the bus drivers, which still, it's kind of plateaued a bit at the moment. I'm a bit concerned because I think now that the trains drivers have got their pay rise, I dare say the bus drivers will be asking for theirs now, so it'll be their turn. So let's hope not for strikes and stuff. That's going to be hard work. So there's a bit of a layout of what we know. So we know that Forest Way is, that intersection there, Forest High School, is definitely going to change probably soonest. We also know from people, letters to my office, my time as mayor, people around this area were looking to use their big blocks of land to put duplexes on. That's now possible with a 10-day consent with council, with council or through a compliant development. All those things are existing now, so we know that will change. You've got Masterton Homes on TV selling you that for a package for like $700,000, live in one, rent the other one out. We know that these rents are high here, so it'll pay for itself pretty quickly. So we know that's changing. The high school is designed for 1,500 students at Allambie Heights there. There's 750 or 800 at Forest High at the moment. And with the changes with Freshwater High down the far end going from senior campus down to co-ed, things will start to shift around with Cromer and Forest will probably get some more intake. Infrastructure required, I wanted to talk to you tonight about is what's your appetite for bus lanes down Warringah Road in particular, because that is something that I know that we asked for as part of the review that the government was doing on what they call the the A8 corridor and basically the network review across the Northern Beaches, which went to Chatswood to the Northern Beaches and from basically Camray to the Northern Beaches. So it covered all aspects, takes in the main roads. I want to hear what's our appetite for bus lanes, because it does have an impact on traffic. And I have a view, you all have a view, and I'll share mine at the appropriate time. We know that I'm not convinced that the Department of Planning, they only exempted Blue Mountains Council for the low mid-rise because of bushfire risk, and not any other council area, despite lots of people, including myself, saying we had the same. We've got other infrastructure issues like water. There's that, but there's a plan allegedly sitting somewhere in some desk that it could be that water pipe that we all know that goes across Roseville Bridge there and cuts through all the bushland that serves as the Northern Beaches. That's designed to be an additional pipe, allegedly. So we've got those challenges. We know the infrastructure is not coping with the stormwater infrastructure is not coping, and with the more frequent storm events that we get now and the more frequent weather events, they're significant and severe, just like they predicted 20 years ago. That's happening now, and we're seeing the results of that. Brookvale's overflow tank's about nine stories high, and it overflows regularly, and that's just one of many. So there's issues with that. The tunnel was cancelled by the previous Liberal government. The current Labor government said, yep, we endorse that, and we're not going to pay for it, because it was $12 billion was the last estimate that I heard that it was going to cost to do the tunnel. I was a supporter of it, providing it was done right. And by right, I mean environmentally taking care of it, not creating other issues, and there was the right open space delivered, etc. And it had a 24-hour bus lane, which could be ultimately a tramway or a trackless tram, so it's 24/7 straight through that tunnel, and that would take you to Chatswood or to the city. If that was done and dusted, but it's $12 billion and counting. So that's where that's at. The government, but what's interesting to note is the current government has not sold off the houses that that was acquired to build the tunnel. So it's hypothetically sitting there on a shelf, ready to be taken out. Now all the work's done. They're the best engineers in the world around the country, all wanting to do work on that project. So I know that the work's done. The money's just not there, and the priority is out west where the airport is and where the large growth is happening out there in the tens of thousands of dwellings, not the few thousand dwellings the Northern Beaches is getting. So that's one thing. So when the metro, there's no plans for metro. I think the next metro stations are due to commence around 2042 out west again, because they've got to complete the initial ones that they're under construction now. You heard the Bankstown, the link in Bankstown, where they're getting tens of thousands of dwellings, in addition to what's already there, and they've got a train line that doesn't cope. They're now getting a metro to connection as well. Northern Beaches is not considered and hasn't been considered. I'm asked those questions in Parliament, so I can have that in writing, and I've asked what the costings are, because what we've heard anecdotally and from various ministers from previous government and this government is it's 30,000 dwellings was a number that was given to me from Andrew Constance, and not denied by the current government, and we're talking billions of dollars to build, and you need that sort of capacity for people to use the metro to make it worthwhile, but also to fund the development of it and make it worthwhile. So they're not considering metro. And if we want to have a conversation with the community about whether we want 30,000 dwellings, but I want to wait till I've got the answers back in writing and release that, so you can all digest it and have that conversation amongst yourselves. But that's what we know. That's what has been told to us. And separately, the money is, as I said, going out west where the airport's being built, where the roads are. I've got the member for Wollondilly who's getting 25,000 dwellings out there, and she's got a 2-lane road or single-lane road with no buses, no trains, nothing. So she says, what are you whinging about? I said, well, I've got a community here as well, and we've got our own issues. So that's pretty much where we're at and what's happening at the moment locally. I mentioned we had a bunch of Year 11 students, Year 12 students recently with council organised a Have Your Say Day, the Youth Council with Northern Beaches Council. And the topic that Killarney Heights students brought up was the transport, particularly at night. They like the idea of on-demand transport, like the Kia ride, which is what they have up in Pittwater. which was introduced with the B line to get people from Mona Vale Station to the rest of the area, particularly around the bends there at Avalon and Palm Beach, Bayview, etc., to the west. So was that something we can consider? I want you to ask those questions, and I can ask somebody in the room tonight from Transport what that actually means, because it does usually mean, to my knowledge, that reduces your bus services into the suburbs. So if you're in Davidson or if you're in Killarney or Belrose and you're getting a certain bus service once an hour, no laughter, that's good. Once an hour, it might get it once every 2 or 3 hours, just to make sure you can get the on-demand stuff instead. I don't even know exactly the terms, but we'll ask later, but that's what the on-demand means. When you see me say Kia ride or slip up, that's what it means. Equally with the bus lanes, is there the width for bus lanes? Is there the width for other bus entities? Do we need some more overpasses like we've got here at Starkey Street? I remember seeing a study saying that we could save another 30 or 40 seconds on travel time if we put another one of those pedestrian overpasses above Warringah Road, which was at Curry Road, where the 2 service stations are. So e-bikes is another one. So the students mentioned e-bikes, but again, safety and after dark. And when they had that murder of that young lady at the Central Coast just recently, which was fresh of mind at the time, but they talked about free public transport up to your age of 18. And let's face it, any of us who get buses now, no one taps on if you're under the age of 18, or few people tap on if you're under the age of 18. But is that something we should consider? What's the cost of the budget? I've talked about potentially build a multi-storey, conversation started, do we build a multi-storey park and ride here next to the club at War Memorial Playing Fields? A couple of stories there with some green space above. Is that something that the community would utilise? Could we get a bus that goes straight to the metro or straight to the city? Don't know. We do know that Chatswood's at capacity, and we've asked for funding for, and I know Transport put in a bid for funding to upgrade around Chatswood Station to get rid of the congestion issues that exist there now, which is, and to improve it for the future so that we can expand into that and integrate it better. That's probably enough for me, because I said this is about very much a two-way conversation, and I want to hear from yourselves. So I'm going to start with the first person who puts their hand up, I guess, and he's right here because he got here early. And I've got our staff here who've got a microphone, or I've actually probably got it. Thank you. And if I've missed anything, feel free to have a crack.
Hello.
It's on.
Thanks for the introduction, Michael. My name's Michael Tanner. I have 30 years experience in public transport. I've worked for Transport for New South Wales for 25 of those years. And I have a...
Survived?
Hey,
You survived?
Yeah. Yes. Retired a couple of years ago. So I have a couple of questions and suggestions.
Yep.
Mine are about basically making sure forest doesn't get left behind, because it's going to be the biggest growth area on the northern beaches.
Agreed.
And it's about making sure that you can get a business case result from government rather than just a piecemeal answer. And I was interested to hear you talking about your intersections. They'll give you average days. That's what they do. They don't give you the worst or the best. So anyway, here are my suggestions.
Well, just on the business case, I agree wholeheartedly. That's why I've started that process by asking what I think is the right questions. I know what answers I'm probably going to get back. I'm a bit sarcastic like that.
Yeah, that's okay. Well,
Or realistic.
if you want to really cut and dry business case answer, you ask them to run the Sydney travel model and ask them to give you the result of the do nothing scenario, and you'll see that the area chokes to death. And unless it's changed in the last 4 years, I think it'll still be the same result. So you can say there the government say that. Anyway, my answers are pretty simple.
Yep. No, appreciate that.
Okay. So first of all, making sure that when you talk about contraflows, I'm suggesting that you put a contraflow from Forest Way through to Edinburgh Road at Wilby, and also through Pensur Street.
So was the contraflow for those who might know?
Contraflow where
Like the Harbour Bridge, Spit Bridge?
take one lane off the opposite direction of the beach.
Yep. And how do you do that on Roseville Bridge?
Okay, you can do that. Well, this is what it comes down to, how much money you want to spend. Because if you're not going to build a metro and they're not going to build a light rail's not feasible for the geography, they've got to spend some money here, and that's putting a contraflow on the Roseville Bridge is like, when I first started 20 years ago, who would have thought you put a contraflow on the Harbour Bridge? So you've got to look looking forward. Anyway, so if you do that, you could turn the spare lane into a T2 bus lane. Okay, so you'll still have the traffic with the single occupancy vehicles travelling to the city, but you'll also get the benefit of people with a T2 and a bus getting a priority service into the CBD basically. When you get to Penshurst Street, Chatswood, getting into Chatswood's an absolute nightmare. So if you took 3/4 of the services off Boundary Street and ran them down Ashley and then into Anderson and make Ashley a bus only street, you'll probably shave 3 or 4 minutes off every trip into the metro.
Which one's Ashley Street?
Yeah, but it's also buses already.
Parallel to Boundary.
Buses already run there. Okay, they run there in the.
Yep.
Okay. The next thing is the interchange itself. You need to. My suggestion would be to reverse engineer the interchange. At the moment, people get off the bus, have to cross the road, get onto to get to the railway station. If you change the direction of the bus, so the set down was on the opposite side, people will be able to get off the bus without having to cross the road. Okay. For the reverse direction, people getting off the metro or off the train, all you have to do is build a simple pedestrian overpass where the people can get off the metro or the trains, walk down, cross pedestrian crossings onto the departure side of the interchange. So you'll catch, it's only, I'm talking seconds, but each second that you save is improvement on the trip. The business rules, okay. I was thinking that, you know how the light rail works where you tap on it at a standard station? Okay, if you change the business rules so it's like the Manly Ferry, Opal I'm talking about, that if you tap on at Forest Way or Forestville at a stand before you get on the bus, you can walk onto the bus without having to tap, okay? When you get off the bus, it's the same business rules as the Manly Ferry, is that you're assuming that if you tapped off before, you've recorded. If you haven't tapped off, you get charged the full fare, or you'll tap onto the metro, or you'll tap onto the train station. The benefit of that is Transport for New South Wales, instead of sitting there saying, well, the average wait time at Forestville is 2 or 3 minutes, you'll actually be able to get the full journey time rather than what they tell you is the journey time. Anyway, I have a long list.
Yep, good, and we'll throw someone else shortly. But on the contraflow, and we're keen to hear with the contraflow. A lot of people use that middle lane, that big. The lane at the moment, like there's a lot of concrete in that middle there. People use it to stop, cross the 6 lanes to get across to the other side. Pedestrians use it. Are you suggesting we get rid of that, or are we suggesting and how do the pedestrians get across the road?
The pedestrians now cross Ringa Road.
And there's many of them still.
Yeah, still, but at the moment, if they cross at Forest Way or they cross at Forestville. Any other pedestrian is at the moment running across 6 lanes of traffic.
Yeah, we see it every day. But they stop in the middle. They cross 3 lanes, then they stop, and they wait, and they cross another 3. I get it, but I'm just saying.
You get it. I know you get it. But
it's not safe, but they do it.
They do it now, and it's not safe. I can't provide every solution.
No, I'm aware.
I thought about this just yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
So anyway, I saw short. I'll send you the rest.
Yep.
But
they're the important parts.
The most important thing is that you, in my view, they have a model in Transport called AMSA, which is not a strategic travel model. It models at a local area. So if you want to test a contraflow and the benefit that you'll get from a contraflow, or improve travel time from tapping on or tapping off, AMSA will give you those results, so you can actually get a proper business. I shouldn't say proper. You can get a business case,
yep,
which you can actually. So I don't know if we get leverages with transport.
I've got 60 buses.
Hey?
I've got 60 additional buses, 50 bendy and 10 double decks.
Anyway, that's me. I'll give it to somebody else.
Yeah, but thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I should have mentioned the 10 double deckers. Yes, they'll go to the B-line route initially, but they'll retire a few of those ones down there and hopefully move them up to the forest to give them some additional capacity, along with the bendy buses. and they'll do less kilometres, and they'll be maintained significantly less kilometres by going to the forest route. So, where was the next question? Sorry. I had someone.
Hi Michael, thanks very much. My name's Luke. One of the things that I'd like to drill down on from what the last speaker was saying is the routes that the buses take between here and Chatswood. So we used to have really great reliable services that you could almost set your watch to, where they would leave the closest stop to here, which is Ring Road before Forestville Avenue, and they'd go to Chatswood via Boundary Street. That would take about 10 to 15 minutes during off-peak, and they would arrive just before the hour, so just enough time to change onto another bus that's leaving from Chatswood, say you're going to like Lane Cove or somewhere like that. But now they route most of them via Victoria Avenue, and that takes quite a lot longer, especially because now the 16EX means that buses that do go along there don't stop at every stop. And when they do come, because they're 3 times apart, it feels like they stop at 3 times more stops. So it's made it take even longer, if that makes sense, because there's more traffic along there since COVID anyway. They're stopping more often, and that route now takes about 25 minutes instead of the 15 that it was. And since April,
So it takes 25 minutes, it used to be 15, and there's less buses as well,
yeah, there's less buses as well. And since it got changed, who operated that route, it moved from like zone 14 to zone 9 or something like that. Is that correct?
I don't know, but the zone 7, there's zone 14, there's zone 12, but...
Sure, it's probably zone 7, zone 14, whatever it was.
Doesn't
They're no
matter.
longer, those buses, the 281, the 283 and the 280 are no longer in the same route. And so the buses are no longer timetabled to work together, if that makes sense. So the 281 and the 283 will leave from the stop here before the 280 arrives, but then the 280 will arrive in Chatswood first. And before they moved zones, they used to be spaced out so that they were interleaved, right? If you got on the 281, it would arrive first, and if you got on the 280, it would arrive first. But now the 281 and the 283 are essentially useless services for someone who lives in this area of this RSL.
Yep.
So yeah, it would be really great if something could be done to restore 15-minute services via Boundary Street.
I'm not going to throw said transport person under a bus, but would you like to respond? Do you have an answer in terms of, is it a COVID thing, is it a bus driver shortage thing, is it a combination?
Look, I think the irony of I put someone on the bus, not the first time. Look, I think just in terms of that, so what you're referring to about zones is the operator, so that's the contract region that operates it. That doesn't have a particular effect on the timetable because the timetable is still specified by TFNSW, and we work with the operators on those timetables. In terms of interworking with the 280 and the other routes, 281 and 283, the 280 timetable has been revised to make it more reliable. The 280 timetable did have some reliability issues previously, and that's meant that they can't always be as interworked as they were. The 281, 283 timetable we certainly want to have another look at because there are some improvements we can make to that we will get to. But generally speaking, getting buses in and out of Chatswood can be difficult. Anyone who's caught a bus in and out of Chatswood would have been with some of the congestion that we have that affects some of the routes going in and out of there. But we have routed them to make them as fast as possible. So with that 280, for example, getting there first, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to get that bus to get you there as quickly as we can, but as reliably as we can as well.
Can I just make a comment?
Yep.
Why it goes via Smith Street now?
Sorry?
Can I tell you why it goes via? The reason why those buses go via Smith Street now and the 270 stops at Smith Street is that David Royal, which is the old or a very original Forest Coast Line zoner, or tooth and nail to get those stops from State Transit Authority because they could see that Smith Street industrial area was developing. So it's I feel sorry for the bloke who's going to Chatswood, but that new industrial quarter there, there's going to be more housing. That's why the buses are routed that way now, because they get people picking up and dropping off at Smith Street, where previously you'd have to catch 2 buses to get to any one of those places of employment. So I know it's a bit of shit, this bloke, but it's unfortunately that's the way it was. But that's going back a long way. That's why the operators did that. And you're right about the old days. Areas were exclusive. Now they're not. Transport for New South Wales does the bus plan. So thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add one more thing quickly. The other thing that really annoys me about the 280 is that it arrives at 5 or 7 minutes or something past the hour. And then it arrives at the other end at Regan Mall exactly on the hour. It would be a lot more convenient if the bus just ran like 5 to 10 minutes earlier. So when it arrived at Chatswood, you then still had time to interchange onto other things, even if it stayed as only a half-hour service, rather than going back to every 15 minutes.
Fair enough. Take that as a comment. One of the things we've heard loud and clear too is the regions. Like all the beaches is broken up into 2 regions, and most people don't know that. And so when you stand at the bus stop, we're going, there's another Chatswood bus going. There's another Chatswood bus going. Well, one's coming from DY, the other's coming from Forest, but they're irregular. But why there's 2 regions on here is historical. Whether it's fit for the future going forward, I don't necessarily agree. I think the merger of the regions would be better, and how it integrates, I think is very important. And you made that connection. Matt, was it? Yeah, you made that point too. Do you want to say that as well, or?
Hi there. So yeah, I did quickly mention this to Michael. First of all, thank you so much for setting up this transport forum. Really appreciate it. But definitely, one of the things that happened about 2 years ago, back in 2023. So I'm from the North Shore. Used to go to school here for quite a long time, and and it was quite frankly a bit of a nightmare trying to get here by public transport. So my parents would always drive me just because it was impossible. I'd drive for about, driving was about half an hour, public transport hour and a half. So so it was just impossible getting through here. One of the things that was considered, originally there were 3 regions sort of around, North Beaches and Upper North, a couple of regions. So Region 12, sort of the Upper North Shore area, Mount Tringai Depot, and then Region 14, which operated by Forest, based in Terry Hills, operated sort of this part of the Northern Beaches, and then Region 9, which was originally government run until around 2021-ish, when it was taken over by Keolis Downer, a private company. And one of the things that was done in 2023 was that they merged the 2 regions, Region 12 and Region 14. And one of the ideas from, what I remember at the time, because I had a lot of conversations sort of around this time. We had the Bus Industry Task Force and all that, so there was a lot of conversations about whether, we could, sort of more, integrate sort of the operations of the ex-Region 12 and Region 14 areas together, which would help out quite a lot with a lot of people trying to get, from this part of the world, the French's Forest area, which is becoming quite a large employment hub. We also got a lot of people moving in as well. So, people both going into the city, like for work, and also people from my part of the world going over to the Northern Beaches for work, for school. But at the moment, there hasn't been really very many route adjustments that have been made yet as to, to try and get better access for us from the North Shore to the Northern Beaches. There's definitely demand, like, if you drive around here, like going from Motorvale Road or on the A3 or the A38, it is a bit of a nightmare trying to go through. So I'm very interested to see if there's like any considerations about, more integrating, the ex-Region 12 parts into Region 14 a little bit more, and also if there's like any interest in potential like bus priority as well, bus rapid transit as well around the area, especially between D1 and Chatswood, and also potentially out towards like the Gordon, Turramurra area. It'd be very interesting to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't know if you want to respond to any of that, but certainly the integration comes up a lot, and the fact that it's not integrated, you heard from two of our speakers tonight. But with regards to I think it was Turramurra was saying, you now can get the Metro to Chatswood and the 160X, which will become, as I said, a B line and a bus rapid transport option. But you need to integrate it with bus lanes, and contraflows are one of the things that have come up. What I wanted to know is, with all that, it's part of the 50 on road book app, right? So the Metro, Kia Ride on demand, is that part of the cap as well?
That I'd have to double
Take on, yeah, I'm not sure either, because I've got to ask a question. Is the Kia Ride, if we went for on demand, is that part of our cap? And I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. I might come back to that.
Thanks, but certainly the Metro and the bus is part of the overall cap. So if I got the X160 and then the Metro, that's part of my weekly cap.
Yeah, so Metro, Sydney Trains, bus, ferry, light
Yep,
rail,
fast
that's all
ferry.
part of the overall cap. And I think I'll just make the comment that from a service planning perspective, so in terms of designing the bus network, so the design of the bus network is led by TFNSW, and we work with the bus operators to do that, so we cooperate very closely with them. But it's not tied to which operator operates a particular route or where they work from. So in the work that I do, for example, the operators, I'm agnostic as to which operator I'm dealing with. It's about how do we get the most efficient service so we can run as many services as we can, because that's what we want to do. We want to run as many services as we can afford, and how to get them reliable. But it doesn't rely on which operator operates a route, which contract region sits in. We're agnostic to that. In terms of improving some of those cross-suburban links, that's really a question of reforming routes that have grown up over decades, particularly some of those very local routes, and trying to make them faster. There's always a trade-off, because when we make it faster, we also end up taking buses out of streets, and then people lose direct access. And with a lot of those routes, particularly up and down the North Shore line, for example, you have people who are using that as students, and people who public transport is a necessity. So actually taking away that access can be very difficult, even though we might want to make the service faster and more frequent. So there's a few trade-offs for us in there.
And the 169, the bus, disappeared. It's the one request that I get all the time, and I don't get a satisfactory answer. 169 would go from Chatswood to Manly and onwards, I think. 136. 136 and the 169.
166 pretty much.
Yeah, so I won't say getting rid of. Removing that was the price to pay for the 160X. So the 160X, when we introduced that, and I'm very proud of that, 160X, I worked on that project, and so you had a much less frequent 136, and the remainder of that became up to the 166 for those of you who like to play route bingo out there. So we couldn't have two services overlapping each other if we're going to get the frequency we wanted the 160X. And the 160X is all about frequency. So we have a network of routes in Sydney. There's 23 of them so far. We call them a very great marketing name, the Auto Frequent Network. That's just something we talk about, but effectively they're frequent routes. And the idea is that during the day, the bus runs every 10 minutes or better, 7 days a week. And early morning and late evenings every 20 minutes or better. The 160X is one of those, and we want that frequency. But the casualty in that was the 136 between Frenchs Forest and Chatswood.
So just elaborate on the Kia Ride on demand. What would happen if that was introduced to Kalani Heights? What services would you likely to lose, or Forest?
I suppose in the case of Kalani Heights, once you get off the main road, you might argue there's not a lot of services to remove in the first place.
Correct.
So I don't think there's so much scope there. But one thing about on demand is it does abstract, so it does take away demand from regular bus routes. And it makes it difficult to continue supporting some of those regular bus routes, particularly in terms of the span of hours, so how early the bus runs, how late it runs, and how often we run it. And on demand provides a certain level of access, which is great, but it's also quite restricted in terms of the number of people that it carries. And we still have really busy times, particularly around times for school students, where the on-demand vehicles you might see running around the care rides, so smaller vehicles, not a regular bus, don't have enough capacity. So we end up having to provide 2 fleets. The small vehicle, which is great for 8 p.m. or midday, but also the regular bus, when we have 50 kids who turn up at 3 o'clock. So that creates a whole cost around the impacts on the frequency we run, not just in this area, but in other areas as well.
So what hours does it operate up in Pittwater? Does it finish at 10?
It's roughly
9 o'clock?
6 to about 9, 10 o'clock
9, 10
at night.
Okay, so that would be something we could consider. Well, so as a local MP, we looked at Belrose, Davidson, and we looked at introducing it into Cromer and those areas around there, and also some up here in this area. And each those 3, there are, I think, about $2 or $3 million to run. I think was the budget required. I'll get those numbers exactly, but we're asked to put a budget bid in, and we did, and that was the kind of numbers we're looking at. But it comes at the expense of regular buses.
And it also comes at the expense of having services that go right through to destination. So if you're in Clarny Heights,
Correct.
you know, Michael already talks to me about the 273,
Peak hour.
is the peak hour city service. We have 1 trip now. But if you had on demand, there wouldn't be those services through to even Chatswood or the city, because it would be about just feeding you in to catch a 160X or another route. So there will be some requirement to change, so that has some difficulties for people as well.
Thank you. I should appreciate a question.
Now that it's been raised, can we talk about the Killarney Heights to City service? Because when we moved in 2001, there were 3 direct services in the morning, there were at least 2 in the evening coming back. Since that time, the population has become younger, the average population, the school enrolments are through the roof, and now we're down to 1 very unreliable service in the morning. For example, this morning, it was 10 minutes late, didn't show up on the app, so you had no idea whether it was actually coming or not. It was overcrowded. Are we the end of the line, just got to deal with it? Or is there a solution that anybody is considering even?
I'll answer that. One, was it a bendy bus that got it this morning?
No,
No,
it was
okay.
a small bus. Only had 1 door operating.
Yeah. So one thing is one of the additional buses that we had, the bendy buses, so the whole bunch got taken out, 80 something across the thing, as you probably saw in the news. That produced capacity everywhere, not just in this Northern Beaches region. But went further, the bus driver shortage, there are just no bus drivers. Full stop, and that has been the biggest issue, and that's probably the key issue as to why it got taken off. And then they've started to build up again, and now we're looking at trying to get back the second service, because that was the one recent one we lost, the second morning peak hour service, we lost that. The bendy buses, we understand, are starting to hit the road. I think 7 have come back on out of the, I think it was 80 that we lost. 7 have come back on across there, which is helping reduce that, so you would get on the bus. But it is ultimately the bus driver thing, and we want to get them back on. And anyone who's seen letters and transport know, and the minister knows that we're working overtime. I saw your hand go up. So, but that's the actual answer, and that's what we've been told by the minister at her office. So we have to believe that when we speak to CDC, that's what they tell us as well. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make one point that we're the buckets that have to use this service, but the government's the only one that can enforce the contract.
Yep.
And these are profit companies, they're privatised. When there's no small business here gets an underwrite from the government if their volume falls off, or if they can't hire staff. If those companies can't find bus drivers, they need to pay more, they need to provide the service that they're contracted to do, because we're the idiots that can't get to work on time.
Yep.
And reliability is part of your travel time, right? If I can't get to work on time, reliably every day, then I need to allow more time, because the bus turns up 10 minutes late, it gets cancelled, it's full, I can't get on the bus. All that means I have to allow more time to get to work. And there is only one person that writes a contract and enforces a contract, and that's the government. We're the idiots that have to use it. You want to get cars off the road, then you need to provide a service that people can rely on. And I just don't think allowing profit-motivated companies to go and adjust the service we'll have to use is actually the right approach, because no one else gets that support if no one turns up to their business, right?
So
So there's a lot of good ideas. I love the idea of bus lanes, I love the idea of contra-flow lanes, but the first part we all need, we can actually do right now, is just enforce the contract that these people signed or bought off Forest. They bought that knowing what risk they were taking on, and everyone else takes on the same risk. So we just need someone to enforce it for us.
I couldn't agree more, and that's, you would have seen with regards to Northern Beaches Hospital, we've been working overtime on that, which has taken up all of my time and my staff's time. Buses has been the other one we've been working on from day one, because I suffer when I use the B-line, so I'm in D1, so I get the B-line, I'm suffering from that on a regular basis, being cancelled, and bus driver shortage and the like. It's only just now starting to improve. The reality is, ask all those questions about KPIs, and guess what you get told? Commercial in confidence, can't answer that. Commercial in confidence. It isn't great.
It's not good enough.
It isn't good enough.
To sit there and use the service and pay for the service.
And I'm the one who cops it, because I'm the one that gets on the bus, and I hear it from them. I hear it
I'm
from
actually
them.
directing it more to the guys who can do something about it.
I know you can, but I'm not sure that he's the right person to answer it, to be fair. So, yep.
The question for transport is obviously it's frequency over reliability. That's the age-old transport planning question. But the major question that you should be asking, Michael, is how much are customers prepared to pay? Okay, like you have a good question that you want more bus drivers, but if fares went up by 15%, so they could pay bus drivers more money, what are you gonna? That's the trade-off that you need to be discussing.
It's funny you say that, because I have asked for an extra. Would you have a $60 cap instead of a $50 cap if that meant we got more bus drivers and more reliability? For me, it's a yes, but for others, it might be a no. But that's okay. I'm happy to ask those questions. But I just want to reassure you that on the KPI thing, we've been asking that from day one, and we're getting snowball's not the right answer, but we get told yes, they are being managed, and the contract. A former minister's words to me were, it's not worth the piece of paper it's written on, the contract. That's what they've got, but they're doing their best to do that. If there's another gentleman I deal with in Buckley's buses, lives on the beaches, he's across it all, been there for 100,000 years and looks at, and he's the one that tells me that they only so much enforcement they can do, but the contracts just don't allow them to do more. That's what they've inherited. We don't know what the government's position is going forward, whether they'll keep running the contracts as privatised, or they'll switch out to get out of it. It's like the Northern Beaches Hospital, I'll use that one as an example. Written into that contract was, if the government takes the hospital back, the public portion of it, which is 240 odd beds, is profits out to 2038. And for the private portion, which is the other half of the hospital, even though it's all integrated, was to 2058. These are the types of contracts the government, so to tear that up is in the billions and billions of dollars, which they don't have. So that's the honest answer. What I don't like is not being able to show, here's the contract. I just want to put it out there and say, here's the contract, here's the KPIs, you tell me if they're meeting it or not. And I think it was Jo Halen said in Parliament, when she was a minister, she says, they're incentivised to cancel the buses rather than run late. And that's BS, right? But you can't change that contract, because that's what, in good faith, the contract that people who run the contracts have entered into. So change that now. So, but where's the transparency? Exactly right, there is no transparency. But I'm trying, and I'm trying to get it out there, but you get blocked, because the reliability is the one thing, because it's all well and good to have all these great options, but if you can't get to a bus, who cares? Get on the bus, that's right, who cares? Exactly right. Sorry.
I have a message from my grandson. I've wrote to them to see if they'd like to ask anything. And he goes to Killarney. He'd like more loop buses before school. I don't know what that means.
Loop buses are like the shuttle buses that take you from the main bus stop on Ringa Road and take you up to Killarney.
I know they run, but maybe there aren't any early in the morning. I'm not sure.
We'll take that on notice and find
my
out.
son, of course, wants dedicated bus lanes in peak hour, and he couldn't care less if the cars hated it.
Oh well, and let me tell you, the transport people on the roads, people at Heels, loving that, don't worry. There's a question here, and after that question, I just want to ask, what route runs you're seeing and what other things you've seen, but that's the question, but I want to hear this question first. No, behind you. Sally? Sally?
Thanks, Michael. I'm Alex, and I'm really grateful that you're holding this evening. I think it's really productive and people are being really constructive, which is fabulous. So the solution, as I hear, fingers crossed, Northern Beaches Tunnel reappears, because that would alleviate a lot of problems. So moving forward, it's a bus and car solution. So we've got the issue of trying to get people on the buses, but they're going to be at capacity, so people are going to stay in cars. So how do we move beyond a one-person car? So that's an additional, share riding, those sort of things. How do we incentivise that? And just from catching the bus into town, which I really like, and it's cheaper than doing the bus metro. The bus metro is more expensive than the bus into the city. Smith Street is a real problem, and I was really excited when they were doing the renos there. I was thinking, yay, they're going to address this turning right issue. Just put in a bus bay, which is sort of good. So whatever solution moving forward, bus and car, even if we go for a designated bus lane, and we might go by Penshurst rather than down Eastern Valley Way, Smith Street is a real issue, and if we go a designated bus lane, which I endorse and I think is fabulous, that's going to become a really big problem with people driving and just get into one lane. Because it already causes backlog right back to Roseville Bridge. So
Just on the cost of the Metro bus, that's part of the physical cap, so you're an infrequent user, is that right?
Yeah, an infrequent. I'm not a frequent user of that.
That's fine, so it'd be like $10 for the day.
Correct.
Right, yeah, cool.
10 per ride, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair call, I've heard that before, particularly for people who work from home 1 or 2 days a week, and then if they want to do that option, get that. And separately, there was something there about Smith Street.
Yeah.
But yeah, we heard a novel solution there. So I know that the Willoughby Council's looked at quite a few issues there and worked with government. I know government's got plans because I worked with the member for Davidson there and with Transport to say we support this and make it happen. We weren't successful in this budget, but maybe the next one. So, and then the other thing I wanted to add too is that with the reliability, I think with all the buses coming back being repaired, the many buses that are coming back being repaired, with the switch over of the to the electric buses in the other region down in in Brookvale there, they'll switch over next month or month after, very soon. And with the additional 10 Bendy buses, I think by January, February next year, reliability it should be addressed to a point, more on the capacity side of things, probably less than the more the capacity, which will help with reliability, but we need more drivers and we need that more.
Yeah. And it's also, we want more people on the buses for just sustainability.
Yeah, and I heard the other comment from next to you, I think it was, that when I did that challenge on the bus, I missed the first metro, not because I wasn't there waiting for it, I couldn't get on.
Yeah, try not catching the 160X and see how long it takes you. Like what this other
that's right.
person saying. And also, if you're going to Chatswood and you're doing bus and metro, but if you're not catching the 160X,
I guess it's 278, and
yes.
It does choke at when you get to Chatswood, like you're saying, so I love all those ideas and I think that's great. But I actually find it super reliable, that one, and unlike the Killarney buses, I do find that 278 is pretty good. It seems to be there all of the time, and I get on there. But on the way home, I catch the 160X, and I think the 160X is a fantastic bus. I catch that all the time.
Can I ask, so on the 160X, would you get rid of that stop just after the Roseville Bridge?
No, it doesn't
Just think of a whole bunch
at all.
Not just those people on the other side of the bridge. You don't.
But the other thing
it's probably getting 5 minutes quicker.
We've actually started as a family catching the 160X on the weekend into Chatswood as well. My wife loves the car, hates catching the bus, but we've actually got her catching that now, and we do that all the time. The only part of my commute that gets is that getting onto the metro now at Chatswood. That's the thing that's getting really capacity there. But I catch the metro because I go to Central, and getting all the way into Central, it's fantastic. And Central's going to get busier and busier with the big tech hub that's opening up there as well. So I love the metro. I think it's fantastic. Catch it all the time. But that was why I was saying it's not my experience on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's fine, and I think that shows that the differentiation
And just segueing onto rat runs, I live on a rat run, so if you want to talk
Yeah,
about
which
it
one?
later, that's fine.
No, which one?
Maxwell Parade.
Yeah, so council and transport did some recommendations, and I think at Hillmore, wasn't it? So during peak hour, don't turn left, whatever. Has that worked?
Look, I think people are still coming through. I don't
Google
think
Maps
it's-
takes it there.
Pardon?
Google Maps takes it there.
Yeah. I wouldn't say huge improvement. And you know, last year a child actually got hit on Maxwell Parade, which was really concerning. Yeah.
I wonder, we'll take that up because I want to know if the police and their statistics, what they're saying about that sort of thing, and that's recorded because we've asked for a 40k zone on Forest Way, not your area, but Forest Way outside Wakehurst Park, Wakehurst School up there, which they're looking at. There's been a few accidents there, cars rolled. They've done some works with some sort of tractions upgrade in terms of the road surface. They're doing some fencing there for the pedestrians, for the kids, because there's so many in peak hours. And those things are all in train. But I'm just wondering about that one rat run that's parallel to Regan Road in the morning. It's terrible. From what time?
It can be anywhere starting from 6:30, 7 o'clock, and it's not only cars using it, it's construction, and sometimes buses themselves are using the back streets, which, so I've lived on that street for over 20 years, and it's just particularly the last 5 years, drastic
Okay.
change.
There's some people from Rose making notes now. I'm sure we can.
Yeah, I think it was when they were doing all the works,
Yep.
people learned to go back in the back streets. That's what I would say was the motivator for it.
Well, when I've driven here in the mornings and peak hour from DY, it tells me to go down your street. It tells me to get off Moringa Road and don't go through the grey separation. It tells me to take the lights, then go off, turn a helmet, follow that one down to Maxwell.
Maybe I should set up a cappuccino there.
Might make a good sheet. Why not?
Are you talking about Fitzpatrick Avenue East?
Yes.
Yeah, that's if part of the problem. I drive that to work. Sometimes it's actually a walk to work past the restaurant. But that problem with that is it's a giveaway sign, and all the beaches people are so polite that they let them merge one. They made it no left turn in AMT. It'd run along the past traffic lights, but it'd back up.
Yeah.
Past Wakehurst Park.
Oh, they've got those fancy modelling now. We can see all that. Matt. And then who else was after Matt?
Really great conversation so far. I thought that I would just mention just a couple of things that have popped up along the way. So, especially like with the rat runnings, as Sydney becomes a much more densely populated city, cars are just not the efficient way of being able to, to be able to get us around. So, if we had in this room the same density with the amount of cars that we travel, normally only about 1 in 4 of us travel with more than one person, and the size of the car is about the equivalent of 3 of these chairs going back about 3-4 rows. If we only had one person just for these 3-4 rows, none of us would be able to fit in this room at all, and that's and that's pretty much a simulation of what's happening out on our roads and stuff like that. But with public transport, I was just interested, especially hearing about sort of, the priority of the buses mainly being for, people who cannot drive, around the North Shore, the northern beaches, which, I understand that and that's important. But say, for example, for me, I got my license about 2-3 months ago. I used to take the buses around the North Shore for many years. When I got my license, even though that I'm a bit of a transport nerd, and love buses, love public transport, made a whole YouTube, Instagram, TikTok account about it all. I just don't use the buses around my area just because they're, just because they're not that efficient. But if we have, good services, good, reliable, frequent services that, for a large catchment of people to be able to get where they need to go, and that includes the 160X and the Sydney Metro. You know, people use them. You know, the Metro has become very successful, maybe even a little bit too successful, because you've got the Metro people coming up from northwest Sydney. You also got people coming from the North Shore Mineway, and also people from the Northern Beaches and the 160X and all that. So it really does show, if we have good, reliable, frequent, accessible public transport, people will use them. So I think it's really important that we have that as a priority for our bus services, not just to be for people who don't have a choice. They're a student or they're elderly or can't afford to have a car. It should be a service that everyone should be able, to use, and it will.
So Matt, I've got a question then. Basics, I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. Do you use an app to look when the next metro or the next bus is coming?
Yeah, TripView.
When you're in the metro station, you look it up, or do you look at your app?
Normally, it sort of depends on the situation. If everything's running on time, on schedule, the display boards work well. But normally, if there's a delay, the display boards become highly unreliable. Normally, TripView can tell me way more than the display boards, the stage, the announcements or the staff can do, just because there's just not that communication happening.
Okay, I've got two more questions. We're getting a bit late. So I've got one down the front here and then one up the back. And then Rachel's got one on there's three. But thank you, because I asked in the app question because I'm going to throw to you, because I understand the technology is all 3G technology. Anyway.
Yeah, hi. First, I thought shout out this app I started using, because obviously TripView, it's annoying if you've got the free version, it doesn't save your routes. It's called Transit, and you can probably get on Apple or Android, and it's just got a green icon, just Transit. It's really useful. You can save the routes on there, compare to different routes, give you a little visual guide on which one's going to be quicker that day, and so I found that really useful.
Transit.
But other thing as well, I live on the 279 route, which is up there, and I just have to say it's pretty useless, and I think it'd be really good as an on-demand one, because I've got pretty fringe use cases, right? I get to UNSW, or I'm going to Camden, southwest Sydney, right? So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense at the times I'm doing that. But and so basically every single time I want to get out of there, I think I've used the 279 once in my life, and I've lived there basically my whole life. But so basically every time I get up in the morning, even if it's peak hour, I'm having to drive. I either go to Rebet Street. Normally I'm going through there. If I can't find a park within about 5 seconds, I think I can go around here for 10 minutes, keep going in circles, do absolutely nothing, or I can drive on, try and get to Roseville's train station, that being more reliable. And in the end, that's kind of useless, because I'm just clogging up the same roads everyone else is. Like, I think if any kind of solution is going to be there, you've got to convince people that the 160X is actually a better solution for driving, because half the time I think, I get on this bus, I'm going to end up at Chatswood, then I'm going to light rail, and it's just taking up so much time, whereas I can get so much quicker there in the car. So just like, you look at the 160X sitting beside you in traffic, you've got to think, where's the value in that? Why should I use that as opposed to driving?
Would you use a park and ride if this was here?
Yeah, I think that'd be really useful, because you go to Rebet Street, it's a lottery there, and otherwise, if like one of my mates, he does a dodgy thing, he stays around in the Forest Way Shopping Centre way beyond the parking lot, no one checks it.
Don't tell everyone that.
If I was to go and use that, right, I'd have to turn left off Norrie Road, that gets absolutely clogged up. Yep. And then I have to turn right to get to the Forest Way, I go across like 6 lanes, or 3 lanes of traffic, right? So it takes a long time to even get to that side of the road. So yeah.
So the app is Transit.
Yeah, the app's Transit.
Excellent. We'll use that from now on. Thank you for that. Can I ask on the apps then, because we've got a question and then we've got another one from Rachel, just on the apps. Who here is familiar with the Beeline and its infrastructure where it says when the next bus is and all that sort of stuff? You all seen that? Yeah. Well, who would want that? The Beeline stops. Who would want that on the Forest Way and Warringah Road? Was anyone better about that?
Jamison, but it's not light.
It's not light, exactly.
No,
that's right, it's not the one there. So
cancelled buses don't necessarily show up on the app.
So I was going to ask, because I heard that the app was like 2012, 2013, and it's been 3Gs, there's been a whole bunch of issues. Did we get budget to get that fixed? Is there being something newly rolled out with the bus will actually talk, so there's no more ghost buses?
Yes, there is a project that is
going to improve that. So that is underway. So it's a big project about that information. Just in terms of information to stop, I came here tonight from the City Line Metro and then 160X. Always love to get on the bus and see all those happy faces. None of them thanked me though. And then the problem about being public transport is I'm a bit lazy, so I had to get off up there. But there was a 280 coming a couple of minutes later to come back, so I didn't have to walk 2 bus stops back. And whilst I was waiting for that 280, we've got the real time has gone up there with the we call it e-ink, so that's that display there, like a big iPad. E-ink, like electronic.
E-ink. So it has gone up.
And it has gone up. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, there's about 15 buses to Chatswood from here in about the next 15 minutes. And you know what? People living in Melbourne would kill to have buses with that level of frequency.
It's the best street from Forest Way to the
But
train.
how-
It was the best place.
But how many were ghost buses?
Yeah.
Oh, not the one I got on. It was very real. I touched it, I grabbed it, I felt it.
So there is something coming, so there is more
You're going to be
coming.
brave enough to catch public transport home again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I do practice what I preach. I share a car with my ex-wife who goes with the kids, but I take the bus everywhere and train everywhere I go because you have to sample the network. I've worked at public transport my entire adult life, and we have to experience it to improve it, and that's exactly what we do.
So,
Thanks. Some of the thunder's been stolen because I think you've raised a few of the items there, but just my son uses the 160X, fantastic, loves it, well done transport, fantastic job, really good. I grew up in Hong Kong. Hong Kong has a very integrated system. Unfortunately, within Australia, you're going to probably experience the need to probably change modes of transport. You're not going to get the opportunity over time as more people come on. I don't think you justify a metro yet because we haven't got enough people compared to Hong Kong.
correct.
And one of the things that does sit there for me is, well done with your little vlog on showing about the bus and taking the 160X, that was great. And I think you benefit definitely from communicating more to people on about the 160X. It is the B line too, and maybe that's part of the planning. I heard Mr. Tanner over there talk about a few opportunities, and potentially from there also around things like bus stops. How do you tell people what's going on, park and ride, and also potentially if you're looking at things like when they did Metro, at each of the stations they changed the buses to be more local, and maybe if Frenchs Forest is turning to this town centre hub, that's an opportunity now to make that a hub, make park and ride and also links. So well done, and by the way, big fan of Beaches Link, so yeah, again, if that's going to go ahead, I think as a community member I'd be pushing for that.
Yeah.
I'd love to tell you a story one day about the time beaches working. Rachel?
Nice socks. I don't know if this is a question for Mr. Tanner over there, as he knows a lot about the community or the transport person. Two questions. First question is, I'll ask this, is I've got teenagers and I'm always picking them up, so they often go to the city. I would love more transport to the beaches because living in the forest for 30 years, it's really hard to support the restaurants on the beaches if you want to have a drink. You kind of have to drive everywhere, so I'd love to see some kind of more connection to the beaches so we can get home. Otherwise, you know, we don't stay out long. But second question, I think Michael might know this, is living in Belrose for a long time, it's been talked about that the government never sold the roads off, and from Elm, it was called, I don't know if it is true, the Bosca plan, and the train line for the metro still exists. And I know a lot of people, including yourself, would support the metro. So although a lot of people in discussion before we came upstairs were saying, you know, not in our lifetime, I know a lot of people are for it. So is it a possibility, because I'm kind of sick, selfish, picking up my kids at Chatswood every Saturday night, going to the city, but it would be great to have a metro if it was possible. And I know talking to my old landlord in Belrose, he said that it's actually would be built under the bush, so it wouldn't destroy the bush. and there would be a tunnel, and it's all planned out. So is it true that that still exists and it hasn't been sold off? And is it a possibility that it will ever happen for us here?
I don't know if Transport knows that answer, but I'm pretty sure a lot of the land's been sold off. I know there's some that exist, like at Terry Hills, but the route was, from memory, went from Terry Hills to French's Forest, maybe to Tiwai. It was like ... but certainly from French's Forest, through the bush, through County Road, up there to Belrose, out to Terry Hills, and then out to, can't be Roseville, so it must be further north, because there's waterways, and it was an overland train, it wasn't an underground. As soon as you start going underground, it is in the billions of dollars. I forget how many, that's what we're asking the numbers. Is it $1 million a metre? Is it 10 million? You know what I mean? So we're asking the actual numbers so we can put that out there and show the community that's what it is. And therefore, that equates to the density that goes above it. So yep, you can do it 100%, but then you've got to then put in a green square at Forest Way, and you've got to put in a green square at Terry Hills, etc., etc. So good luck with that. That's bushfire prone land. I don't know if you saw the 60 Minutes story the other night.
So the answer is no.
The answer is no. Not anytime soon. The answer is not anytime soon, because we don't have the density.
That's what we want to know.
Kids will be growing up before you.
But I love the metro, I also love the main one.
I'd just like to, hopefully you can reassure Transport not to sell off the land that they purchased for the
Beaches
Beaches
Link.
Connect.
Yeah, we have.
Because when we did the North West Rail Link planning, the government of the day sold off all the surface land at what a price, and then they had to go back and that's why a lot of it's tunnel, and then they had to buy the surface land back. So if you can make sure that they don't sell the land that they have reserved, so it might be in my lifetime, probably not in your lifetime, but eventually somebody will want it.
Exactly. The tunnel will happen one day, but it won't be, I doubt it'll be in my lifetime, but but having said that, who knows? You're spot on, but just on that, you're spot on the selling. There was another resident came to us, transport nerd, a mole, whatever you want to call them, and gave us some very specifics around where they're doing the works around the Warringah Freeway at the moment, and said if they get rid of that, the Beaches Link is dead, or it's a lot more hard, a lot more expensive to retrofit. And I think I sent those questions forward and got a response that potentially that has been saved, but they definitely have still kept the houses. I've spoken to the Premier direct. He's not interested in something. He says if someone's stupid enough and has got the money to build it, good luck. If we had the money, we'd build it too, because we could put our flag on it and say we did that, but we don't have the money. They inherited $130 billion of debt, which they remind us every freaking question time, and blame the other mob, and it's just, so yeah, that's what we hear all the time. Yep.
Hi Michael, thanks for the opportunity to chat with you today. I'm Tony, I live in Killarney Heights. I work in North Sydney, so and with a hybrid working. I was wondering if the 278 bus, at the moment the last one that goes to Chatswood, I think it's 8 AM. So I'm wondering if we can have like another like 1 or 2 services, just maybe one that ends at like 9 AM or a bit later. And the reason is because a lot of us like hybrid workers or we often have a lot of meetings in the morning, and then we then duck into the office afterwards, at around that time frame. It's just the way work has evolved these days. And similarly, coming home is not that much of a problem, but it's just getting into the work. If we have to do a couple of meetings at home first, it's just not possible right now. So, question is, could we have a couple of extra services in the morning just to stretch it out?
We'll certainly ask that question for you and see what we can get. We want to see if we can get some sort of. Would you have an idea, an honest idea? Is it just you who wants it, or is there another 50 people that want it, 20 people? There used to be, I know. I live on Starkey Street, and I used to catch that bus to Town Hall, to QBB, I think it was. But, so yes, the short answer we'll ask. That's not a question from another question. You said in North Sydney, if you had a park and ride, would you just dump the car at say Forest and jump on a bus that took you on the 160X?
Yeah.
So I think to the metro.
I probably would. I'll be tossing up between that and just driving to Roseville and catching the train in. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think a park and ride up where we are here and catching a train would be quite an attractive option.
Okay. There is a bus, but the bus to North City. But I'm just thinking if there's a parking right here and the bus was on to North City Elmering Road, or it was quicker to get the metro, because I know there's I've got a student, uni student who works for me, and she says it's now quicker for her to get the 160X at TY to the metro to get to university at Central, or down that way, as opposed to getting on the B line and doing it that way.
Yeah, it's definitely better to go to Chatswood and then catch a metro than any other way. It's just a...
No, I appreciate that, but I'll hear what you're saying, and we'll just see what we can find out so we can create the demand. I know there's another one over here, but thank you. I just wanted to ask if there was an alternative as well.
Sorry, that I just had heard it from Mark. Yes, sorry.
Sorry.
I've been a bus 160X fan from Northern Beaches Hospital. Don't work there anymore.
There'll be some jobs coming up soon if you want to go out to the public health system.
Don't worry, I'm still casual there, so I should get my back pay. Anyway, now I found it difficult to time the buses. Like, I'm an infrequent bus user. Living in Killarney Heights, I just would like a visual on a Killarney Heights shuttle bus or something that said, oh, I link with the 160X. Or just, and then we could get familiar with those kind of timetables. Just a suggestion.
Yep, no, that's fair enough.
There is a Forestville to Killarney shuttle bus that goes anyway.
Yeah, but I think it finishes early, doesn't it? It finishes quite early.
Goes all day, goes 7 days a week.
But it finishes at what time at night?
Oh, I'm not too sure.
9. But no, that's a good point with the ASHO, so we hear that a lot.
6 on weekends.
6 on weekends, which doesn't help me for the hospital shift worker.
Oh no, I'm just a Killarney Heights bus rider, and to the city. I mean, the more buses in the morning, the one that does run goes at 7:20 very early, and that's the only direct bus. We used to have 3 when I first moved there, and 2 that came back. They were taken away in COVID. We never got them back again. I know the 160X is wonderful, but it's not for everyone. And more, my sons one goes to New South Wales Uni. He prefers the bus into the city from Jamison Street, finds that quicker, and then picking up the light rail from there. So yeah, not everyone is up for the. I mean, I know the frequent buses 160X is great, but you know, more direct runs can also be good. And having taken them away to offer more services, I mean, I do see a lot of 160Xs running empty, which is disappointing. I'm thinking that, you know, our buses from Killarney have been taken away, but these buses are running empty. You know, that upsets me.
And on that point, it's because there's 2 regions. So the 160X is from Region 8 and Region 14, which services the other Chatswood buses and stuff in Killarney. So that's why. And it says if we have one region, we can just divert a few buses to Killarney, so you're not missing out on a couple of less 160Xs. So
yeah,
that's one of the reasons I want
the reliability. It's also like those shuttle buses running on time, not early. I was walking up the street to catch my bus to Chatswood the other night, and the bus went past early. So it's not always late, it's early. The drivers are getting home, rushing through, and missing people. And it's happened to my son the night before. So,
yep, fair enough. Back to the middle. 8:26, so we probably have to wrap up. I'm happy to stay around though and answer more questions, but just you might conscious.
I've got something completely different. 1.5 years ago I got an e-bike, and I've been riding into the city, into Central from Forestville. I don't do it in winter because it's too scary after dark. But riding there is fantastic. On the e-bike I don't need after trip facilities. I can go in my jeans and t-shirt. The only problem is West Street is just scary because there's so many cars through North Sydney. I know that's not your region, but it is such a great way to go to work. I'm 52, I've done 2,500 Ks on it in the last 18 months, just going back and forth to the city. It's really a great way to go to work. It's just that one bit it's pretty treacherous down there. People, I don't know what goes on in that street. But that's just, if there's transport people, that would be one thing you can fix, and I'd love you to promote that more. It's great.
Can you send me that route that you do in the morning? Because I think that's something.
You can come with me.
I've got an e-bike.
On the back.
got an e-bike, I'll come with you, don't worry about that. Challenge accepted.
Yep.
It's a pedal assist one, people.
Close enough.
Because that like bad thing where you ran in the city. Anyway, so look, that's a really interesting one because I was going to ask about the e-bikes. If one of the companies, I think it was Lime or something like that, came and approached me and said, could we look at putting something in Forest and Killarney to get people, you know, to that point where they can't, the buses are pretty ordinary, and there's a lot less now, there's a whole bunch of reliability issues. How many, particularly students, would jump on the bike to get up to Killarney Heights or to get to their house from the 160 or from Warringah Road, basically? So would that be an option, like to get a Lime bike service here, or to get that as an option to make it more frequent? You don't have to rely on your car, then you can just jump on the bike at any time. You know, there's going to be one there at any time when you get back. And on the basis, and I'd be pushing council hard on this, is to make a proper bike lane off-road. I mean, I think that's when it's on the road and it's properly, you know, safe, but it's on the road, but it's a safe bike lane, not one of those ones. Would you use it potentially?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe just having someone lock an e-bike up there.
Yeah, well, that's why I like the Lime bikes and stuff like that. I think that
people own a lot of them themselves, so if you can lock it up,
yeah,
it's safe for the day. It's a great option for an area like this.
I'm still waiting for my one to do. I bet you I was from 10 years ago. But anyway, I don't have councils in the room. The Michael Regan Memorial e-bike busting at the beach shed there. No, that's a good idea. I agree with that. I think there's space at Jamison Square to do exactly that, to be honest. So I might even start looking at doing that now and give council a grant to do it. So, because they'll always ask me for money. I'm used to that.
Please not share.
No, I agree the shared paths. I mean, I know they're a necessary evil.
Shared paths are deadly. People that ride bikes think that they own everything. And I'm sick of nearly getting knocked over as I'm walking. No one ever rings a bell that might weigh them down if they have to have a bell on their bike. No one says thank you. And I like walking, I walk everywhere, but I don't like shared pathways.
No, you're not the lone ranger.
People
Right.
just need to be a bit nicer on the roads, though. It's funny because I'm not the demographic that rides these e-bikes, but I do ride one, and the amount of media you get about how bad the e-bike riders are. But when you're on the road, people just don't give you any, like they don't share the road with you. So I ride on the road because I'm a big burly bloke, and it's okay. But I can see why people do ride on the paths. I can see why that happens, but it's just also a bit of a quid pro quo. Drivers just need to be a bit nicer.
Maybe you have one
West-
side of the road bikes and the other side of the road people.
But then you can't have that. I've gone through the Pandora's box.
You just do like they did in WA and they duplicate it. They have one path for pedestrians around Perth and one path for bikes. But they've got.
But they're building new roads and they've got plenty of money. Is there any burning questions? Because just on the e-bike thing, I just want to finish on one thing there. But is there any burning questions? Anything that hasn't been asked?
Could I just comment on the pedestrian overpass and the maintenance?
Oh, the lack of maintenance.
The cleaning,
Yes.
actually, it's disgraceful.
Yes, we agree.
I've actually had older friends who won't get into the lifts because they are so dirty. And when they clean, they don't clean properly. You know, that's the issue. I don't know.
And then when the lift breaks down, you wait 6 to 12 months for it to be replaced.
That was just ridiculous.
I thought I asked, and you'd be pleased to know that it's also broken down at Brookvale again. So that's another 6 months out probably. So we hear it and we've asked questions, and the answer goes, well, they're feeling their contract obligations, which is once a month, once a three. I don't know the answer. I don't know if I'm not going to speak out, but it's not enough.
I saw one stage earlier on, probably 12 months ago, it was absolutely,
It was awful. Yes, it was. Yeah.
And I rang up, and I don't know how I found the number, but it was the actual contract, the original contractor, and he said, oh, we lost that contract, they took that away from us. And he said, so I don't know who's cleaning it now. And I went up the next week, and there was a truck parked there, and the guy cleaning had a children's bucket, sand bucket, and a cloth. And I couldn't believe it. And I thought, and it was so, and all he did was smudge it, you know.
Yeah.
But it is really, it's a health hazard actually.
We'll stay on that one because it's not right, and particularly when it breaks down. Yes, sir.
just the common theme, Michael, that one just reminded me that maybe one action is better contracts.
You think?
Yeah.
They've got a few years to run yet, is my understanding, so they're running out. Barbara.
I think it's great. I always get on a bus that's clean. I get on the metro, it's very clean. I I live in Davidson. I often go to my daughter's at Waltham and then go to Starkey Street. So I get in the lift to go up. And it's, as you said, absolutely putrid. The time I was there once when they sort of cleaned it, it wasn't clean. So my question is, they clean buses every day, the bus is clean, so why can't, that's the start of my journey. When I get on that lift to go up, that's my journey to go into town. And I have to go in there and not stand there and hardly breathe. And I would like to suggest when you do your next little run where you're going to check the times, when you go to Starkey Street, if it's from there, could you please take the lift up, walk across, take the lift again, take the lift, and just get a feel for it. A few days ago when I was there too, the button wasn't working. I pushed it when going. I had to, you know what you call it, toggle it. It wasn't just pressed in. There was something stuck. Yeah, so that's a problem too. And you get in there, you think, are you going to get out of it? But you just stand there and you can't touch anything, and it's just unhealthy. So who's responsible for it ultimately? To get the contract.
New South Wales, and then who are the contractors?
That's the transport. That's my transport, and that's
but
not
it's the
right.
contractor, and we hear that, and we'll stay on it because it's not good.
So will you promise me you'll go up and down it on your?
I'll be there. I'll be there. In fact, I know for a fact I'm going to be there in next week for the Wallabies game because I'm going that way. So
take a ride,
going
both
6 years. So I'm going to make sure I got the lift. But I'll try and get it before that. Anything else? Because I'm conscious that
How long does it take him to get to the city on the bike, out of interest?
It takes me about 55 minutes.
That's quicker than the bus.
Takes me about 55 minutes into Central.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
And where do you park it?
that'd be quicker on
I work in UTS, like the UTS building. They've just got it, so I can chain it up there. So, but not in winter. I've stopped this winter.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll make sure we get all this feedback down. If we miss anything or you've missed anything, you'll tell us. That'll be really helpful. Is there any last burning questions?
You were going to say something about
Great.
e-bikes.
E-bikes, I was just going to say, Jackie Scrooby, the member for Pittwater, ironically, whose father-in-law is Harold Scrooby, my man at the Pedestrian Council, she's putting in some legislation about e-bikes. She wants to see them regulated to a point. She wants to see certain standards put in. We want to have a really good conversation with our high school students because they're the ones who mostly use it. We know the parents in particular are the ones who purchase these things and don't necessarily appreciate things, the circumstances and insurance and the like. So we've got some pretty good people around the table. We've had some good solid conversations. We hear the shared path thing all the time, so we understand that. And there's some things going through for us with active transport. There's about $8 million about to be spent over the next 2 years on some connections from Davidson all the way through to Beacon Hill, which is all about active transport and bikes and shared paths and on-road bike lanes, etc. But we need to have a conversation. But Jackie's doing that, the member for Pittwater, and I'm supporting her on that. But it's just important because they are the future. They are the kids. I shouldn't say kids, but they are the P-plate. They're the 12-year-olds P-plate. It used to be 16-year-olds, soon to be voters. But the thing is, what was really telling for us as we're having these conversations is the freedom they've got is one thing, but it's that they can get a job. Because they're not relying on a bus, they're not relying on mum and dad, they can get a job, and that's really important to them. And they can get they can go to sports training, so they can, or if they're into the arts, they can go into the arts and things. And it was really fascinating. That was one of their key drivers. It wasn't about whatever, it was actually about and feeling safe, particularly at night and getting around stuff. So we're keen to make sure they're not banned or anything like that, but we're just going to work constructively. And any feedback you've got will help that, but we're going to have a really good conversation. Sorry, sir, yes.
Actually, on this topic, in Europe...
in Europe?
So, in Europe, they've got these like little electric car things, like the Renault Twizy and things like that. And I was using them, they were awesome. And it exactly fits that use case that you just described. Even 16-year-olds could drive them.
drive them over there.
I've seen that car.
And I was wondering if we'll be open to allowing those to come into. I know they're classified as quad bikes or something like that, which is like this grey area. But it would be awesome to have one of those and drive to like these short trips to North Sydney rather than take my large car and make it available for kids so they don't need to ride an electric bike and stuff, which is still like somewhat dangerous.
If I can get a photo of a Twizy, I'll put it up on the website and share it with everybody because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I thought the same thing. But yeah, the speed is capped at 80 kilometres an hour or something like that, and they're too small. They're considered a quad bike or a motorbike or something. So there's a whole bunch of regulations that they wouldn't pass federally to be put into Australia, let alone state-wise. I mean, the trackless trams, they talked about, we had this conversation with Transport, because I'm a big fan of them, from what little I've seen, I guess. But yeah, they treat them as buses and road vehicles, not as actual trams. And there's certain things, like they're going to have reverse lights and things. You know, hang on, they're not reversing, they're going forwards. Anyway, so it's road rules, central bureaucracy, the like. But good point. On that note, thank you everyone for coming out and speaking to you, and thanks for watching.